that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the not expanded universe, the sort of, kind of, third possible timeline, whatever you want to call it, fan fiction universe by Handofthrawn45, or Gregory Scott, with his fourth and final book in his Legacy's Edge 4-book series, Perfect Night. So this one, as opposed to the previous three, which were more transition pieces from the book era to the comic era, this one is a direct prequel to the actual Legacy comic books. And it's pretty good. I don't have too many issues. Most of my problems are two. And it's not his fault. He wrote this before Legends Con even happened, and I don't even know if he went to Legends Con. And again, this isn't even necessarily the case because it was never verified, but he has Anya Solo in here. And the thing about that is, again, the Legacy 2 books were finished. They got out there, or the comic books. But, it was rushed because they wanted to make it longer, but they had to make it shorter because they knew the buyout was happening soon. But they wanted to do more with Anya, they just couldn't. What Karina Benko, I think that's her name, she was at Legends Con 1, and me and Brennan talked to her a little bit, Brennan being Quinlan Voss on YouTube, but you should definitely subscribe to if you haven't. But we asked her, if you didn't have to rush the ending of Legacy 2, what would have been some of your plans for Anya? Now, she said, her words, now this, again, it was a collaborative process, the comic book, it wasn't just her working on it, but she said her idea, there were different ideas spinning around, but her idea, and the one that she felt strongly about, was the idea that Anya Solo was a nobody, like Rey Skywalker in Disney canon, but done better. She wants to be a somebody, she wants to be a Solo or a Skywalker, but she's actually herself. It was meant to be the polar opposite of Cade Skywalker, who spent his entire life denying his destiny, denying his heritage, because he wanted nothing to do with it. But he is a Skywalker through and through. Whereas Anya Solo is nobody. She's not related to anybody, but she really, really wants to be, because she's like us. She's heard all these stories, she's heard all these many things, she wants it to be true, but it just isn't. She's herself. But that in of itself is amazing. But she's just another Solo. That's what, and I don't blame Handofthrawn45. What else? He didn't know that. So, that being said, that's far less compelling than what I just said. And the other thing is, Sword of the Jedi was, let's fix the Denningverse. This one, and I'm really scared now for Legacy's End because of some of the things I've heard. It's kind of disrespectful to George Lucas. When you play in somebody else's sandbox, you follow their rules. There are things said about the Force here that just rub me the wrong way. There's a lot of beautiful things, but there's also some things that, and we'll get into that in spoilers, not getting into that here. But yeah, this is basically, those are two main things. Other than that, it's pretty solid. This is a prequel to the Legacy comics, so we get to see a lot more of Cole, a lot more of Nat. We see the end of Jade Skywalker, we see the end of Arlen. We see how Rowan Fell got tricked into working with the Sith. The Sith rose and took over and how the Jedi fell from grace. And it's all done very well. It's similar to the prequels of being vastly different. Because Rowan fell, for all of his faults, he doesn't want to hurt the Jedi. The Jedi don't want to hurt them. But there's all these things pushing them, all because of the Sith. Though, this would hit harder if the Sith weren't antagonists in every single story prior to this. But yeah, overall, it's pretty solid. I enjoyed it. I think you will too. I think this is my favorite of the post-Crucible stories by Hand of Thrawn, and then Empire of Light, where Davik initially creates the Fell Empire. I think those are both his best works in terms of post-Crucible anyway. And moving forward, I can move on now to the actual expanded universe again with the Legacy comics, and then conclude with Legacy's End by Handofthrawn45. I know I've kind of dogged on this a bit. I want to speak to the entirety of these post-Crucible stories. A+ to Gregory Scott for working on these stories. I mean, he's not getting paid for this. He's doing this entirely for free, entirely for the fans and himself. Props to you. You wrote a story that you wanted to tell, and you put it out there for us to read. Thank you. You spent that hard time and effort. All the major props to you. However, and this isn't a Gregory Scott problem, this is a fans of Gregory Scott's work problem, where they have hyped this up and hyped this up and hyped this up and hyped this up as the true successor to the novels. And with that mindset, I decided to treat these stories exactly how I would treat them if I found them on the Barnes & Noble shelf. As I was saying, I don't mean to rag on them, and I know I've been kind of negative, but I've been trying to look at it as if I saw it on the bookshelf. It was an official EU work. How would it stack up? And so I was being, if I'm just looking at this as a fan fiction that somebody worked on for fun, A+. There's some really solid writing in all these stories, some really good dialogue, some really good action scenes. It's solid. But if we're talking about this is the actual official continuation of our stories, I have a lot of problems here. And I have to be open and honest about that. Otherwise, what's the point of reviewing them? I also, I'm aware of the fact that I'm the first one to ever do that for YouTube, and I'm happy to do it. I'm so thankful to Gregory for writing them, because these give a lot of closure for a lot of people. Unfortunately, not for me, but for a lot of people, it does. So thank you for helping those that do really love these and are able to, get some sort of closure out of it. For me, I still want an official continuation, because there are certainly aspects of all these stories that Gregory has written that I absolutely want to see in official capacity. Davik Fell needs to be canon. How Gregory wrote the Fell Empire actually being created, I love. Most of what's in here, I love. I still feel it's too long, but there's so much good in here. There's also a lot of blow. A lot of things that could have been trimmed down, but simply weren't. And I feel like if he had an editor, they would have. And this is coming from someone who's read, like 700-page books, or 500 like God Emperor, and what, other things like Supernatural Encounters and stuff, which is almost 1,000, and yet that somehow felt better paced than some of these stories do. But overall, I'm glad I've read them. I think everyone should at least give these a shot, because they might provide you some much needed closure, or they won't, and it will just further solidify in your mind that you need Lucasfilm to hear us and actually make conclusions to our stories. But for now, pretty solid read, better than the rest. And I would say if you're going to read anything, and you might be a little behind with like Arlen and Jade and stuff, but if you're going to read any of these, I would read this one. I'm going to get into spoilers now. If you don't want that, time to go. As I said, Anya Solo, immediately incompatible. Not her fault, not his fault, but there is problems with that. There's a Ganner sect of Vong who respect the Jedi, which I thought was pretty cool. Everything that Gregory wrote with Cole, just Cole in general, is phenomenal. He made Cole one of my favorite Skywalkers, but also the specific scene that Cole and Morgan have near the beginning of the story is really good. We also get the origins to Darth Nihil, which I actually really enjoyed the story arc for Darth Nihil, so again, thank you. I like that. Lobaka and Jade are still here. I feel so bad for Cole. And this story really helps you, because he kind of goes away so quickly in the Legacy comics. It's kind of hard to like really empathize and you vibe with Cade, but what about Cole? And I feel Cole was like maybe even more so than Ben, because Ben had a lot of bad stuff happen when he was young. But I think Cole was almost this perfect, the grandson, or great grandson, because Cole's great, or Cade's great, but a grandson, great grandson to Luke, and he wanted to make the world a better place. He knows that back in the day, before he was even born, the Vong invasion made a lot of people prejudiced to the Vong, and he wanted to fix that prejudice. He wanted there to be unity between the Vong people and everyone else, to finally heal that wound from the 19-book series. And because of events, because of the Sith, because of, Moffs, all coming to a head to make this war happen that he doesn't want to happen, all because somebody sabotaged his lifelong dream. His, one big dream, his, Nobel Peace Prize achievement he wanted to be remembered for as a Jedi, was mending that bridge between two peoples. And his dream was utterly shattered due to other forces. And so I just feel so bad for this man. And again, the only thing, though, is that the Sith had been a consistent thread throughout this entire trilogy. Had they not been beat for beat in every single one, this would have hit harder. But they should know better. They should know. Rowan Fell should know from the get-go that it's the Sith, because he even suspects at the end of the third book that they're still around. So he should immediately point to them, but he doesn't. I feel like Gregory just kind of wrote himself in a corner there. Everybody should have been so sure by either the third book or the end of the second book that the Sith were gone. So that way when this happens, they could be legitimately surprised. As it stands, it just comes off as absolutely stupid of the Jedi and of the Fel Empire not to get it until it's too late. Stasi, on his homeworld, we learn about how he didn't really grow up on Doros and never even really liked Doros because it's kind of like this toxic planet, and a lot of setup for what is to come. I thought it was interesting that every new Sith initiate has to go through the embrace of pain. That was cool. I wrote the Senate thread of NGO, but reverse. Because before, the Vong were invading, and it was, the Jedi aren't helping, and then also Peace Brigade. But now it's kind of reverse. The Jedi are desperately trying to prove the Vong innocence, and they just don't believe them. Yeah, Anya Solo being a Mando, I'm sorry, but piss off. No. Stop shoving them where they don't belong. Stop making Mandos be related to Skywalkers. Just no. It's so cringe. It's written fine. I need to be objective here. There's nothing wrong inherently with the structure of the story or anything with it, with having the Mandos here and having some Skywalkers be related to Mandos. It is written technically fine, and there's no contradiction. It is, however, in my personal opinion, stupid. things just keep ramping up with the politics and things keep getting worse and worse, so the Jedi prepare for the worst in case another purge is to happen, as is all within living memory for Crook. They plan ahead. Morgan was helping this shadowy person for a while, only to realize that she was working with the Sith, but she's put herself in too deep now, so her final plan is to, well, I'll save the only man I've ever loved and my son, but outside of that, I don't give a damn. Joke's on her. They go through this whole speech where they talk about keepers of the peace and not soldiers. The very similar thing, almost beat for beat, what Mace Windu says, but the difference is Mace Windu's a hypocrite. A bit. Because they did go to war. Cole makes it explicitly clear, if you feel morally wrong about this, you don't have to participate. You can be a healer, you can be on the side, you don't have to. But if you're going to, we could really use you. I just love Cole so much. I think, if anything, I think Rowan was kind of just boring in this book for the most part, except for key moments. But he really, Gregory really got down with a fine-tooth and comb with Cole and Nat and just made great characters there. There's a conversation had where it talks about the Force is life, but it cannot give you purpose. You cannot, and I think it's a bit of a problem like what Jason had. You know, the Sith tried to control everything, but before any of that with Jason just, he experienced oneness with the Force and he wanted to reobtain that because, what else is there after you experience that? But he kept trying to find purpose and some sort of destiny behind everything that he did. And, Force is life, but it's not necessarily there to give you a purpose or a direction for your life either. And this is where the big, just F you to George Lucas, I guess. 45 has this bizarre notion of making Zamina Sakat be able to do literally everything. Zamina Sakat can bring people back from the dead. Zamina Sakat can also give you the Force. Not only can he give you the Force, he can give you the Force without midichlorians. Don't piss in somebody else's sandbox. Don't piss in somebody else's house. Right? Don't go raiding the pantry of somebody else's kitchen. You can love it, hate it, whatever, the midichlorians thing. A lot of people complained when the prequels came out. But guess what? This is George's world, not yours. Don't like it? Go write another universe. This is what George set up. There are better ways to have written certain things. The midichlorians is not one of them. There's nothing wrong with that. If everyone has the Force, if everyone has it within them, then Han Solo should be able to use it. But he can't. It's not a matter of just that he doesn't want to. He can't. He physically can't do it. Why is that? Makes no sense otherwise. Oh, just mystery. Oh, just a mystery. Just a mystery. Makes it less mystical. As if there aren't plenty of religious people that also believe in scientific facts. I'm sorry. The midichlorians in you determine whether or not you can use the Force or not. So yes, I imagine if you strip the Force from someone, you've lowered the number of midichlorians in their body. Scientifically speaking, that would be how that would have to work. But what Handofthrawn has decided is that Zamina Sakat can only bring people back from the dead, so long as they stay on the planet, of course. He can also give you back the Force, and not only give you back the Force, but do it without midichlorians. So not only have you pissed on the Denningverse, if you so want to call it, you've also just pissed on Star Wars in general. I'm sorry to get so upset about that, but it is just blatantly disrespectful. I don't see it's colored in fancy, beautiful words. It's on its own. It's a well-written chunk of the book. I'm not denying that, but the idea and the principle behind this decision is just wrong. It just is. It just it spits in the face of the expanded universe, to George Lucas himself. It's just not right. It just isn't. And Legacy's End, from what I've heard, goes even further with this whole idea of like the Force and people losing it, and it sounds rough, man. But we'll get there when we get there. But I'm not a fan of that. I did like there's a part where there's a Sith with Jade Skywalker and says, like, you Skywalkers, you know, for most people, the Force is a trickle, even if they're powerful. But for a Skywalker, they're a torrent of Force energy. And then Jade dies, and everyone feels it. Nat quits being a Jedi after this scene. It's a scene between him and Cole, and it's a really beautiful and tender scene. I absolutely love that part. Definitely consider it canon in my heart. It was a beautifully well done individual scene. Fel, as he realizes he's being tricked by the Sith, he's continuing to get more and more corrupted and more angry. He promises the Jedi safe haven on Ossus, even though he's taking over Coruscant. And the Sith fight them anyway. And you know how the comic begins. Cole sacrifices himself and dies. Cade leaves with his father dead. And we jump ahead quite a few years. But that's basically where we leave off, you know. The last thing we learn is that Lubaka is still alive. He's just peacing out on Kashyyyk, I guess. Maybe he'll return after the events of Legacy? I don't know. But yeah, he's just chilling on Kashyyyk right now. For now, anyway. But he's just nowhere in the comics. But he is around, apparently, according to Handofthrawn45. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts on the final prequel story to the comics. Next time I see you, we will be back in an official capacity with the Legacy comic books by John Ostrander and illustrated by Jan Duursema. So I'll see you then. And again, thank you everybody for watching these videos. I know they're fan fiction. Thank you everybody for coming in. And thank you, Gregory Scott Handofthrawn45 for writing them. I know I've ragged on them, and I apologize. I'm just trying to be honest and fair. There is a lot to all your stories that I love and like. If you're watching it, really appreciate it, and I really enjoy your stories. I don't hate them. I know it comes across that I hate them. I don't. I'm very passionate about this franchise, and also the problem with just having fan fiction is there's no way for a consensus to be run. Like, a lot of people dislike this and this in the expanded universe, but like, it happened. It's canon no matter what you say. But with this, it's like, you know, it's just kind of like a pick or choose thing here, because it's not, you know, being represented in an official capacity. But it was fun, and I did enjoy it for the most part. I just have, you know, my few gripes, and I do think because it's free, you can read it for free on, you know, fanfiction.net. I think everybody should give it a shot. You know, give these stories a shot, and let me know what you thought about them if you've read them in the comment section below. But I'll see you next time when we get to our favorite edgelord, Cade Skywalker. Till then, guys, may the Force be with you.